Hello, hello. Hi. สวัสดีครับ Hello, everyone. Welcome you to our second day of IPEN Southeast Asia Virtual Conference Series. I am Bobby Akharapol Teepchaisong, and I'm the researcher for Ecological Alert and Recovery Thailand, or Earth. So we based in Bangkok, and Earth we also work and value citizen science for Thai communities in the fight against hazardous pollutants. It is a great pleasure for me and joy to be your moderator this day. And joining us, our meeting host by IPEN Southeast Asia Regional Coordinator Leah, and we are also joined by Mani, Kenneth, Handra, and Jerry for technical support. So just for the quick check with everyone, if you can see me and hearing me loud and clear, can you type in the chat box your location where you are watching us from? Where is the chat? Hi, Leah from Quezon City, of course. From Indonesia, Krishna. Bulacan, Philippines, from South Korea. Hi, Joe. Hi, Malda from China. Pam is also there. Yune, hi. Mages, is that Ted? I think so, no? And Ling Hui is there. So I'm so excited to be your moderator today. And if there are any place that I was not able to mention you from any place from around the world, Jakarta is here. Welcome today to IPEN conference. I think we can, for this virtual conference, is co-organized by EcoWest Coalition, Earth, Nexus 3, and we are supported by the Stockholm Environment Institute and of course IPEN. The IPEN Southeast Asia Regional Network is composed of public interest NGOs in 10 countries in Southeast Asia and East Asia, working for toxic-free for all. And many of you remember about 2 years ago, our last regional conference in 2018 in Puerto Princesa city in Philippines, where we had 3 days of rich discussion on our work, effective campaign strategy, fundraising, and so on. And this conference, it would have been an in-person meeting in Bali, Indonesia. However, due to the unprecedented time because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to go virtual like this. But this virtual setup has also provided us an opportunity to reach out to a broader audience and involve more groups. So a warm welcome to new friends beyond our existing network who are joining us now today. We know that not everyone has good internet access, and doing everything online is challenging. So we thank you all in advance for being patient to bear with whatever technical challenges or connectivity issue we might encounter in this conference series. Despite limitations, we look forward to everyone's active engagement and dialogue in this virtual conference. At this point, allow me to highlight some more meeting reminders. Our meeting reminders, dear friends, this session is being recorded with your consent, and we are also airing this live on several Facebook pages. When not speaking, please be on mute and turn on your videos when speaking. For those participating via Facebook, you can use the comments section should you have the questions. And for the language, to make our content more accessible to many people, we have put a lot of effort into translating the presentations to different languages. The presentations of the speakers would have available subtitles in Bahasa, English, Thai, and Vietnamese. So before each presentation, we will provide you the link where you could have access to the subtitles in these languages. This is also a simultaneous translation to Chinese. It's available now. Just click below in the interpretation box where you can choose the option of Chinese interpreter. And thank you to our translator, Jung. Yeah? Thank you very much. In this regard, we'd like to express our sincere thanks to all your speakers who prepare their presentation well in advance, so we could have time to translate and put in the subtitles. Sincere thanks as well to all the translators. Terima kasih. Cảm ơn bạn. 谢谢. ขอบคุณครับ. So now we should come to our overview for the whole series of this conference. So roughly 70% of the world's urban population live in developing countries, and in these areas, communities are disproportionately exposed to toxic chemicals, with marginalized and vulnerable groups such as pregnant women and children at greater risk. Toxic chemicals have been linked to disturbed immune response and other serious illnesses. Therefore, the effort of civil society groups to pursue citizen science initiatives across Southeast Asia and Asia towards addressing pollution problems in their communities is crucial. That's why we have decided to focus on regional conference on citizen science and its role in preventing and reducing urban pollution from toxic chemicals. How will our conference look like? The conference last week and this week, we will focus on what is citizen science and some successful citizen science initiatives in our region, and beyond that result in good outcomes. And for the next 2 days, so in the last 2 days, we will zero in on challenges and solutions, how to engender greater participation from marginalized groups, how to improve collaboration to make efforts stronger, how to improve citizen science contribution to community health and policy. And for today, our focus is on citizen science and gender. This session will zero in on citizen science and gender with a focus on women's health and harmful chemicals. It will showcase citizen science experience in the region and around the globe that address toxic pollution issues in relation to women's health, or that actively involve women and other marginalized groups in the initiatives. And it's time you're waiting for. I am going to introduce to you our first speaker. I think everyone is ready for that. Our speaker as well. Um, yeah, Pam is here. First presentation. Our first presenter is Pamela Miller, or we know her Pam. Pam is co-chair of IPEN and a global network of over 600 public interest NGOs in more than 124 countries. Pam is also the founder and the executive director for Alaska Community Action on Toxics. She has a long history of organizing experience and working with indigenous communities and other marginalized groups to prompt states, national, and international chemical policy reform for the protection of environment and health. Um, Today, Pam will point out citizen science and women's health. My friends, let's welcome Pam. Before the presentations comes, reminder those about the language. Those who wish to listen to the presentation in English or Chinese, you will stay here inside the Zoom meeting room. But for those who wish to have Bahasa Indonesia, Vietnamese, or Thai subtitles, please click on the link in the chat box so that you can access presentation from our website, ipenc.asia. So you can open the video and choose your preferred subtitles. Please welcome Pam.
My name is Pamela Miller, and I serve as co-chair of IPEN with Dr. Tadessa Amera, as well as the IPEN Gender Caucus with Dr. Olga Speranskaya. I've been conducting community-based research and citizen science in the Arctic for more than 20 years, and am principal investigator for a community-based research project called Protecting Future Generations, supported by the U.S. National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences. Women have different susceptibilities to chemical exposures because of our different physiologies, different types of occupational exposures, and different uses of chemicals in products such as cleaning and personal care products. Women are the first environment for children and the first educators of children. Throughout our lives, women are exposed to numerous harmful chemicals that can be transferred across the placenta during fetal development and through breast milk to the nursing infant. Chemical exposures in the womb or in early childhood may cause lifelong harm. Exposures during fetal development increase the risks of such harmful effects as preterm births, birth defects, childhood and adult diseases. Adverse effects can be carried across multiple generations. We must work to protect women's health because women cannot be empowered nor gender equality achieved if exposures to harmful chemicals cause women to suffer from chronic illnesses, cancers, infertility, or damage to their nervous systems. Gender equality is a fundamental human right. This is an IPEN Women's Caucus meeting at the BRS COP in Geneva in April 2019. This is a woman that we honor with every presentation. Her name is Aloa, a respected elder and health worker from the Yupik community of Savunga on Sivukak, also known as St. Lawrence Island. She had a deep understanding of the health disparities associated with chemical exposures from the former military base on the island and documented diseases including cancers and reproductive diseases. Her knowledge inspired our community-based research. She herself died of cancer. This is the location of much of our community-based research and citizen science. Sivukak is located in the northern Bering Sea, just 30 miles from the Chukotka Peninsula of Russia. And because of its proximity to Russia, it was a place of great strategic importance to the U.S. military that established two large military defense sites during the Cold War that included several hundred personnel, runways, and other infrastructure. The military left a legacy of hazardous waste, including massive fuel spills, PCBs, pesticides, and heavy metals. This contamination continues to harm the health of people on the island today and future generations. In addition to the military contamination, people in this region and throughout the circumpolar Arctic have some of the highest exposures to persistent pollutants of any population on Earth, because chemicals are carried on wind and ocean currents into the Arctic from lower latitudes. This is a process known as the grasshopper effect. In the cold Arctic environment, persistent and toxic chemicals concentrate in the bodies of fish, wildlife, and people. This slide shows some of the results of a small study by Commonweal and IPEN participating organizations that investigated levels of certain persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, in women's breast milk. Each bar of the graph represents the results of the levels of toxic industrial chemicals, flame retardants known as polybrominated diphenyl ethers, PBDEs, in the breast milk of first-time mothers from the Philippines, Alaska, Mexico, Kenya, and the Czech Republic. You can see that the women from Alaska, the Arctic, has by far the highest levels. This slide shows the results from the same study, showing levels of pesticides in breast milk samples. The breast milk sample from Alaska had the highest overall pesticide concentrations, including the highest concentrations of chlordane and dieldrin, two pesticides banned under the Stockholm Convention. The purpose of the project is to provide a forum for the mothers to tell their stories about the importance of breastfeeding and to speak their concerns about toxic chemical body burdens. Our Indigenous women's leadership trainings have been important in empowering women, offering them training in how to testify and engage in creating policy. We also have talking circles that provide women with the opportunity to share their knowledge and wisdom. These discussions have led to community-based research and citizen science projects, for example, to investigate how chemical exposures may affect neurodevelopment in children. We offer an intensive college-credited classroom and field course in environmental health science to train community members to conduct their own environmental and health monitoring and research. These are some of the disease patterns witnessed by community leaders such as Annie Aloa and confirmed by our community-based research. We have witnessed health disparities among the people who are closely connected to the Northeast Cape area of the island through their traditional cultural practices and where the military displaced the community. These are some of the key findings of our community-based participatory research, now published in the scientific peer-reviewed literature. Publications are listed at the end of this presentation. We measured levels of chemicals such as PBDEs and PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, in the homes and blood serum of women and men aged 18 to 40. We found different exposures to PBDEs and PFAS, as well as different effects on thyroid in women compared with men. Alaska Community Action on Toxics, ACAT, receives requests for assistance from communities all over Alaska. We've developed trust and community-based research and citizen science partnerships to address concerns about health. We collaborate with world-renowned scientists and train local people. Most importantly, we work with community leaders, healthcare providers, labor groups, and others to achieve policy changes from local to international levels, science informing policy and actions to protect health and the environment. As many of you know, the Stockholm Convention is a global, legally binding treaty to eliminate the world's most dangerous chemicals. It recognizes the need to protect women and, through them, future generations. It acknowledges the special vulnerability of Indigenous peoples of the Arctic. The carved soapstone statue shown here was presented by Inuit leader Shilawat Cloutier during the negotiations of what was to become the Stockholm Convention. It now sits in front of delegates at every conference of the parties to remind them of their obligation to protect the health and human rights of the most vulnerable. The women here, with Carol Nagarak holding the statue, are part of the Arctic Indigenous Women's Delegation at the Conference of the Parties. This slide begins discussion about an international citizen science project conducted by IPEN and participating organizations to investigate the levels of mercury in women of childbearing age. Mercury is especially toxic to the developing brain and nervous system. From 1932 to 1968, the Chizo Corporation released methyl mercury in wastewater from its chemical factory into Minamata Bay, and it bioaccumulated in fish and shellfish. The residents of Minamata, not realizing there was a danger in doing so, ate fish and shellfish from the bay and the Chiranui Sea, which resulted in widespread mercury poisoning. Tens of thousands of people were affected. Symptoms of mercury poisoning include ataxia, numbness in the hands and feet, muscle weakness, narrowing of the field of vision, and damage to hearing and speech. In extreme cases, paralysis, coma, and death can occur. A congenital form of mercury poisoning can also affect fetuses in the womb. As a result of the immense poisoning in Minamata, mercury poisoning is now sometimes referred to as Minamata disease. This slide is a map of mercury emissions to air from human industrial activities, showing the heavily concentrated emissions from coal-fired power plants in Southeast Asia, India, and China. This slide shows the primary sources of mercury pollution, with the leading sources of artisanal small-scale gold mining and coal combustion. Here's a map that explains the process of the coal-mercury cycle between Alaska and Asia, whereby coal is strip mined in Alaska with nearly 100% destined for power plants in Asia. When the coal is burned in Asia, toxic air pollutants, including mercury, are released. Mercury travels back to Alaska through air currents on what has become known as the brown cloud. It is visible from space and crosses the Pacific in about a week. Approximately 20% of the mercury in Alaska is attributed to combustion in coal-fired power plants in Asia. Most human exposure to mercury comes from eating contaminated fish. Mercury was once mined in the Kuskokwim watershed and continues to contaminate the fish downstream from the former mines. Mercury is also released with the mining of gold and other metals. The proposed Donlin Creek gold mine in the upper Kuskokwim would be a major source of mercury if developed, because the blasting and heating of the ore would release substantial quantities of mercury to the atmosphere and further contaminate the fish and other traditional foods of the indigenous communities along the river. Coal has trace levels of mercury, and when burned for energy, releases mercury to the atmosphere, where it can be transported and deposited long distances from the source of emissions. Here are some IPEN publications that report on levels of mercury in women of childbearing age. Hair samples were collected by IPEN participating organizations in many countries around the world. IPEN partnered with the Biodiversity Institute to collect and analyze hair samples. The data contributed to the effectiveness evaluation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury, with a call to action in proposing a more health protective standard. Of the 1,044 women who participated in the study, 42% had a mercury body burden that exceeded the reference level of 1 part per million total mercury in hair. For some time, the scientific literature has established that adverse health effects occur at the reference dose of 1 part per million. However, The latest scientific literature suggests that adverse effects may occur at even lower levels and that a more protective threshold of 0.58 parts per million is needed. We found that mercury pollution poses a serious and substantial threat to the health of women and developing babies in many parts of the world. Locations where the mean or average level for the group of women exceeded the 1 part per million reference level for mercury were the Cook Islands, Indonesia, Kenya, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Myanmar, Nepal, Nigeria, Solomon Islands, Thailand, Tonga, and Tuvalu. Women from Alaska, Albania, Chile, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, and Vanuatu exceeded 0.58 part per million mercury levels as the mean for the group. Specific factors that resulted in elevated levels of mercury in mothers included a fish-rich diet, artisanal small-scale gold mining or ASGM, and proximity to industrial sources. IPEN stands in solidarity with Shinobu Sakamoto and other victims of Minamata in holding leaders accountable for meeting their demands for justice, health, and preventing harm from mercury contamination now and in the future. Erika Apataki is a community health researcher from Sivukak, St. Lawrence Island, Alaska, making an intervention about the injustice of mercury contamination of the traditional foods of the Yupik people. She collected hair samples for the IPEN Mercury Monitoring Project. The photograph shows Vaiwahi, Yupik mother and grandmother and Environmental Health and Justice Program Director with Alaska Community Action on Toxics, making an intervention at the Stockholm Convention representing the Indigenous Women's Caucus. The chemicals present in our bodies are passed on to our Indigenous children and harm their ability to learn our languages, songs, stories, and knowledge. We are contaminated without our consent. This is environmental violence. This is a statement made by Indigenous leader Gudgie Cook, Aboriginal midwife, educator, and an elder of the Akwesasne Mohawk Nation. Our grandmas tell us we're the first environment, that our babies inside of our bodies see through the mother's eyes and hear through the mother's ears. Our bodies as women are the first environment of the baby coming, and the responsibility of that is such that we need to reawaken our women to the power that is inherent in that transformative process that birth should be. This is a list of the scientific publications of our community-based research. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Where is my program? Thank you so much, Pam, for we get a clearer picture of the pollutants that are harmful to mother and child. We have seen a lot of citizen science work in local and international level, helping to identify contamination problems in the environment and people's health, as well as protecting health of women and children from various forms of violence and toxic developments. We will have time for Q&A after all the speakers have presented. Now is for the second presentation. Our second presenter, Tony Dison. Yeah, you know Tony from the Philippines. Tony has been working for the Eco-Waste Coalition for more than 10 years. He handles the chemical safety campaign for the organization through the project Toxic Free for Human Rights and Sustainable Development in the Philippines. After his colleague, he has worked with civil society organizations advocating for farmers' rights issues, social justice, agrarian reform, and rural development. Tony will show us today about citizen science in action in tracking illegal trade of mercury-added skin whitening cosmetics. My friends, please welcome Tony. And before that, I would like to remind you again, those who wish to listen to the presentation in English or Chinese, you will stay here inside the Zoom. For those who wish to have Bahasa, Vietnamese or Thai subtitles, please click on the link in the chat box, or to access Tony's presentation from our website, ipenc.asia. So you could open the videos and choose your preferred subtitles.
Thank you, IPEN, especially to Leah, our regional coordinator, for this opportunity to share with the conference participants our work on skin whitening cosmetic containing mercury, a highly toxic chemical. I'm pretty sure that many of us in the region can relate to this topic, as the manufacture, sale, and use of skin bleaching, lightening, or whitening product is quite common in many countries from Southeast and East Asia. In fact, we have been monitoring product bans and product recall orders involving skin whitening cosmetic with mercury content issued by other ASEAN member states, particularly Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. We are from the EcoWaste Coalition, a nonprofit environmental health network with more than 140 member groups all over the Philippines. We work on a variety of issues and concerns, including chemicals and waste, toward our shared vision of a zero waste and toxic-free society where communities enjoy a safe and healthy environment. On this presentation, we hope to share with you our experience in applying citizen science as a strategy to track the trade in mercury-added skin whitening cosmetics in the urban market and to promote compliance with regulations in order to safeguard public health and the environment from mercury pollution. For starters, let me give you a short background of this public health issue that we are trying to address through citizen science. Here in the Philippines, skin whitening is a big business, also referred to as skin bleaching or skin lightening. Skin whitening is very popular, especially among women and girls. If you go to a pharmacy, supermarket, or shop online, you will find a wide array of products such as facial cream, body lotion, and soaps that promises to brighten, lighten, or whiten your skin tone. To many, it is considered a ticket to a successful relationship, life, and career. Recently, we sought the views of our members and partners as to why skin whitening products are widely sold and used in the Philippines. The top answers were, white skin is beautiful, white skin is attractive, because it can be seen on TV, movies, and commercials. This is due to colonial mentality. Because it is rampantly sold in the market, white skin is clean to look at and to look like an actress or beauty queen. Are these also the same reasons why skin whitening products are sold and consumed in our countries? To continue, mercury is used in skin lightening cosmetics to inhibit or prevent the production of melanin pigment. Doing so will supposedly result in a brighter or fairer skin color. Please note that this is utterly illegal, as the use of mercury and mercury compound in cosmetic product formulations is not allowed under the ASEAN Cosmetic Directive. Skincare products containing mercury can directly affect the health of women, especially women of childbearing age. Fetuses and babies in the womb are directly affected too, as mercury can pass the placenta barrier through the blood. Indirectly, babies, children, and other members of the household can be exposed to mercury in the air and in things contaminated with mercury, such as towels, furniture, etc. Waste workers who handle mixed garbage can also be exposed to contaminated materials. Mercury can cause a wide range of health effects, including skin rashes, discoloration, and scarring. It can also reduce skin's natural resistance to bacterial and fungal infections. Direct and repeated application can damage the kidney, the brain, and the central nervous system. According to WHO, pregnant women who consume fish containing methyl mercury transfer the mercury to their fetuses, which can later result in neurodevelopmental deficits in the children. Also, an advisory from the ASEAN Post-Marketing Alert Systems warned that nursing mothers are doubly vulnerable because mercury is passed on to nursing babies through breast milk, which can affect the baby's development. Mercury-containing cosmetic is also an urban pollution issue. Our periodic visit to the marketplace have confirmed that the illicit trade in skin whitening cosmetic laced with mercury is quite widespread, especially in cities which are centers of commerce. These contraband goods are smuggled into the country from China, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Pakistan. We often find them being sold over the counter in Chinese drugstores and in stores that sell beauty and herbal products in big shopping malls. These illegal goods are also being sold in online shopping sites. In one study we conducted, we found mercury-added skin whitening products being sold in 50 cities across the country. Out of the 355 samples screened for mercury, 316 samples representing 67 brands had mercury above the trace amount limit of 1 ppm. Mercury in cosmetic can pollute the household environment. Do you know that mercury in skin whitening cosmetics can also cause harm to non-users, especially in a household? Yes, mercury in skin whitening products like facial creams can spread from the hands of the person using it to the things he touches like clothes, towels, pillows, the sofa, and others. It can also get into the air and be inhaled by anyone in the Mercury in cosmetic can contaminate municipal solid waste and the natural environment. Mercury in cosmetics can also contaminate household waste when their containers are disposed of, mixed with ordinary trash, landfilled, or incinerated, causing the mercury to further spread into the environment. According to the United Nations Environment Program, when products containing mercury are discarded into the general waste stream, the mercury pollutes the environment in waterways, wetlands, and the air, and endangers people both locally and globally. Mercury in cosmetics can get into the wastewater and pollute the food supply. Mercury in cosmetics can also contaminate what we eat. Mercury in skin whitening products will ultimately get discharged into the wastewater when a user washes his face or body. According to WHO, mercury in soaps, cream, and other cosmetic products is eventually discharged into wastewater. The mercury then enters the environment when it becomes methylated and can enter the food chain as highly toxic methyl mercury in fish. To address this public health and environmental issue, the EcoWaste Coalition, as part of our work on chemicals and waste, has been campaigning against the manufacture, importation, distribution, sale, and use of skin whitening cosmetics with mercury content. Our overriding goal is to protect human health, especially the health of women consumers, from the adverse effect of mercury exposure due to the use of mercury-added skin whitening cosmetics. The citizen science approach is used to address this issue because of the following reasons. It generates useful data that can draw attention to a preventable source of mercury pollution. It provides us with a tool that produces stories for raising awareness, especially among women consumers and government regulators. It enables us to assist the regulatory authorities in promoting compliance with regulations. And it built our capacity as an organization by increasing our scientific knowledge, technical skills, and advocacy abilities. To summarize, please allow me to mention the steps that we take to deal with this problem. One, we conduct periodic test buys, especially in places where we can get adulterated and counterfeit cosmetics. Two, we take discrete photos of prohibited products being offered for sale. Three, we screen product samples for mercury using our portable X-ray fluorescence device, which can detect and quantify the mercury content of a sample. Fourth, we raise awareness of both the consumers and regulators using the data generated from the XRF screening. Fifth, we then prepared letters to formally notify government regulators about our findings and encourage them to act. And we also work with city mayors and councilors in getting local ordinances adopted that will prohibit the manufacture, importation, distribution, and sale of mercury-laden skin whitening cosmetics in their area of jurisdiction. We applied some of the principles and strategies of citizen science in the course of our campaign. On involving citizens, our campaign activities provided opportunities for our members, volunteers, and staff to participate, and this, we believe, helped in enhancing their knowledge and understanding of the problem. On scientific outcome, our research activities produced useful data confirming the illegal trade in mercury-added skin whitening products and the need for law enforcement and regulatory action. On social benefits, we're pleased to inform you that our perseverance yielded a number of tangible benefits for society. Some of these concrete social benefits are increased public awareness of the issue, the removal of mercury-added products from the market through law enforcement activities, the issuance of public health advisories, and the filing of or adoption of local ordinances to halt the proliferation of mercury-containing skin whitening cosmetics. We face a number of challenges in the pursuit of our campaign. Among them are the following. Number one, the rising demand for skin lightening products due to standards of beauty promoted by the cosmetic, media, and entertainment industries that reinforce the bias towards fair and flawless skin. To address this, we encourage Filipinos to like and love our natural skin tone. The proliferation and consumption of low-priced, adulterated, and counterfeit cosmetics, which may contain heavy metal contaminants like mercury and other harmful ingredients. To counter this, we amplify the public health warnings issued by health authorities through our media work. Third, the lack of information among local authorities about the illegal trade of mercury-added cosmetics in their own backyard. To respond to this, we reach out to local government units, alerting them to illegal products being sold in their areas of jurisdiction and providing them with ordinance template. As a result of our citizen science-inspired campaign efforts, we accomplished a number of positive things. One, from 2010 to 2018, the FDA banned over 135 skin whitening creams with mercury content above 1 ppm. Out of the 135 banned products, 80 were uncovered by the Eco Waste Coalition through our product test buys, market monitoring, and XRF screening activities. Second, local government units responded to our notifications, confiscating non-compliant products and adopting measures to ban mercury-containing cosmetics, such as the adoption by the Quezon City government of an ordinance prohibiting the distribution and sale of mercury-laden cosmetics. We succeeded in elevating the illegal trade of mercury-added cosmetic as a public health issue through various media stories and products. Last year, for example, we collaborated with the popular website Refinery 29 for a video documentary titled Why People Risk Their Lives to Bleach Their Skin. It has over 5.3 million views to date. We also cooperated with Bloomberg Businessweek for a story titled No One Knows How Many of the World's Skin Lightening Creams are tainted with mercury. Also, we forge constructive relationships with other stakeholders, including dermatology professionals, toxicologists, and cosmetic industry association. In 2018, we even got a citation from the Chambers of Cosmetics Industry of the Philippines for our work. To conclude, we need more citizen science activities to put an end to the illegal trade in mercury-containing skin whitening cosmetics to protect our women, the general public, and the environment. Our continuing efforts should also help our government and people in meeting the requirements of the Minamata Conventions of Mercury and our country's National Action Plan for the phase-out of mercury-added products and the management of associated mercury-containing waste. We thank you very much for listening and hope you got a good dose of inspiration from our earnest efforts here in the Philippines to make mercury exposure from tainted skin whitening products a thing of the past. Salamat po. Thank you, IPEN, especially to Lee.
Salamat, Tony. We have to thank you too, Tony. You have given concrete and comprehensive examples of the chemicals in products in everyday life, especially mercury that has wide range of effects and far-reaching adverse health effects on our environment and food. Your citizen science work to put lots of concern of consumers, producers, and policymakers. This activity is a perfect example of the integration of scientific knowledge by users, processes into national and international success. Now, our third presentation, Andreas Nugroho. Andreas is the manager of the environmental education at Ecoton. He's actively involved in environmental education and training programs for students and develops citizen science activities concerning river pollution and biodiversity conservation campaigns. He will talk about monitoring water quality and microplastics pollution. Everyone, please welcome Andreas. And this time, Andreas will kindly give the presentation in Bahasa Indonesia. Should you wish to listen to the presentation in Bahasa or simultaneous Chinese or see English subtitle, you will stay here inside the Zoom meeting room. For those who wish to access to Vietnamese and Thai subtitle, please click on the link in the chat box to access Andreas' presentation from the website ipenc.asia. So you could choose your preferred subtitles.
Hi everyone, nama saya Andreas Agus Kristanto Nugroho dan selamat datang di IPENC Virtual Conference 2020 dan saya mohon maaf presentasi saya dalam bahasa. Saya akan mempresentasikan tentang Ecoton dalam melakukan monitoring kualitas air dan mikroplastik di Sungai Brantas. Nama saya Andreas, seperti yang saya sebut tadi, sebagai riset dan edukasi program di Ecoton, di mana Ecoton itu berdiri tahun 2000 dengan 3 pilar utama ketika melakukan kegiatan yang selalu kita singkat dengan READ, riset, edukasi, dan advokasi, di mana riset itu adalah kita mencoba untuk menciptakan atau mengolah data untuk informasi yang kita akan lakukan, dan edukasi adalah untuk melakukan peningkatan kapasitas dan partisipasi masyarakat untuk penyelamatan sungai. Masalah Sungai Brantas juga disebabkan oleh kurang dalam pengelolaan limbah-limbah domestiknya, karena masyarakat masih menganggap sungai itu adalah tempat buangan yang paling cepat, ya kayak prinsipnya banyak orang, selama itu tidak di halaman rumah saya, itu bukan menjadi masalah saya. Terutama ketika kita bicara di Sungai Brantas itu yang kita lakukan di Ecoton, ternyata popok sekali pakai Dari hasil penelitian kita, kurang lebih hampir 2,9 juta piece itu terbuang karena mismanagement dari pengelolaan sampah domestik. Ini terbukti juga dengan penelitian kita yang hanya dalam 24 jam ketika kita pasang trap melintang di sungai di depan kantor Ekoton, ternyata hampir 47% itu sampah yang tersangkut adalah popok sekali pakai. Selain saset dan styrofoam. Di sini, Ekoton akhirnya memiliki percaya keterlibatan masyarakat itu harus mulai dilibatkan, terutama kelompok perempuan dan kelompok anak-anak, karena mereka itu adalah, kalau kita bilang di Ekoton itu adalah korban utama dalam kondisi pencemaran sungai ini. Sehingga mereka harus diajak terlibat untuk melihat dan memberi suatu solusi apa sih yang bisa dilakukan di sana. Salah satunya ya tadi melibatkan anak-anak, melibatkan perempuan, kelompok perempuan untuk melihat sungainya bahwa ini ada masalah. Dari penelitian kita yang melibatkan mereka, ternyata kita bisa mengidentifikasi ada 72% saluran pencernaan ikan yang ada di Das Brantas ini sudah mengandung mikroplastik di saluran pencernaannya. Ini beberapa bentuk mikroplastik yang teridentifikasi dengan bantuan mereka yang dengan kita bantu untuk melakukan pengamatan, sehingga mereka merasa memiliki juga bahwa ada masalah yang harus mulai dijawab di sana di Brantas. Dalam menjawab ini, Ekoton punya 3 pilar tadi, di mana informasi itu terbentuk itu melalui penelitian yang melibatkan mereka. Yang kedua adalah edukasi atau pendidikan yang harus kita rangsang untuk menciptakan masyarakat-masyarakat atau kelompok-kelompok yang kritis. Karena di sana akan muncul suatu gerakan yang akan bisa untuk, kalau kita sebut, persamaan untuk memperoleh keadilan dalam lingkungan. Penelitian data informasi tadi itu adalah untuk menciptakan data yang bisa dipercaya oleh mereka, dan ini bisa meningkatkan rasa percaya diri dari perempuan masyarakat atau kelompok-kelompok lain ketika mau menyuarakan sesuatu. Salah satu yang kita sering dengar di masyarakat itu adalah ya tadi, kelompok perempuan itu selalu ya tidak berpendidikan, mengomong tidak selalu berdasarkan data. Dengan penelitian yang partisipasi ini dalam untuk merangkum suatu informasi, ini akan menyebabkan atau mengakibatkan rasa percaya diri mereka sehingga mereka mau menyuarakan atas dasar mereka sendiri. Dari proses tadi kita akan mencoba untuk tadi memperoleh keadilan lingkungan yang sejajar itu dengan proses-proses yang diakui oleh negara. Ada di negara Indonesia itu ada class action, legal standing maupun citizen lawsuit di sana yang diakui di proses peradilan. Yaitu yang kita coba untuk melalui proses peradilan untuk memperoleh keadilan lingkungan itu bisa didapat karena itu mudah, murah dan bisa dilakukan oleh siapapun. Di pendidikan tadi saya bilang untuk menciptakan masyarakat yang kritis, untuk kelompok-kelompok yang kritis, kita selalu pakai step ini dulu. Kita mengajak mereka untuk merasakan lingkungannya, gimana mendapatkan informasi di sana, interview, dan menemukan bukti atau data, di mana mereka data ini yang akan mereka keluarkan untuk omongkan untuk memperoleh keadilan lingkungan tadi. Dengan alam sebagai media belajar mereka akan dapat merasakan bahwa ada sesuatu yang salah di sana. Itu yang harus kita coba untuk bangun ketika kita bicara masalah sungai di Brantas. Terus kita ajak interview atau kita sering sebut untuk mengidentifikasi masalah. Di sana kita akan belajar untuk bertanya pada ikan, apakah kamu punya masalah ikan, atau sampah kamu ini dibuang oleh siapa? Apakah yaitu interview untuk merasakan bahwa ada masalah di sana, ada perbedaan antara fakta yang ada dengan regulasi yang ada di Indonesia. Salah satunya ya ini yang kita coba dengan beberapa kelompok perempuan juga, mereka melakukan mensusuri touch and feel-nya tadi, mencoba bereksplorasi untuk menyusuri sungai dan mengidentifikasi spot-spot buangan sampah yang seharusnya tidak dibuang di bantaran sungai ataupun di sungai. Ternyata ya tadi, kalau regulasinya bilang itu adalah tidak boleh, ternyata ada. Ini yang akhirnya akan menumbuhkan rasa percaya diri dari perempuan-perempuan ini untuk melakukan proses selanjutnya di litigasi. Tadi setelah menemukan data, ini yang akan coba untuk diungkapkan untuk memperoleh sesuatu keadilan lingkungan yang sejajar dari aksesnya, partisipasinya maupun mendapat informasi tadi. Di sini kita juga menggunakan tadi tool-tool yang kita kembangkan untuk penelitian atau mencari informasi tadi itu adalah gimana yang bisa dipahami oleh mereka. Salah satunya ya tadi biomonitoring, menggunakan serangga air yang bisa memperlihatkan bahwa kualitas air ini saya sedang ada masalah. Dari proses tadi, akhirnya ada beberapa kita bilang sukses story kita, di mana untuk memperoleh ada class action yang dilakukan oleh kelompok perempuan karena merasa bahwa ada pembuangan sampah yang tidak sesuai aturan tapi terjadi pembiaran di sana. Ada juga kasus kematian ikan mati massal yang selalu terjadi di tiap tahun. Kita lakukan proses di sana. Yang terakhir itu adalah perempuan-perempuan yang sudah berani untuk menuntut ada masalah mismanagement dalam pembuangan sekali pakai, popok sekali pakai tadi. Dan terakhir, itulah yang dilakukan oleh kawan-kawan ekoton karena untuk menjadi bagian solusi di Sungai Berantas, maka ya tadi ekoton menciptakan atau meng-create kelompok-kelompok komunitas yang ada di sekitar sungai untuk berani melakukan proses. Karena proses ini yang akan selalu menjadi bagian yang tidak terpisahkan di ekoton. Dan itu saja yang saya bisa bagi untuk kawan-kawan di IPEN Conference Virtual di 2020 ini. Terima kasih dan semangat. Hai.
Terima kasih, Andreas. Thank you so much for making a presentation that matches the current plastics and microplastics pollution situation. Your campaign is a model for data collection and creating participation of the people, especially the new generation, the future generation. Your citizen science approach helps to make pollution visible in real life and drives environmental justice. It is empowering communities to take on legal action, which takes to help people identify and define solutions for themselves. Great success. We are now going to our fourth and last presentation, this time from China. Ling Hui He. She is the Senior Project Manager and Researcher and member of the Board of Directors of Toxic-Free Corp, or Shenzhen COS. Her area of focus are waste incineration, ocean pollution, chemical management policy, and toxic-free living. This is a good chance to welcome Ling Hui for presenting to us about detoxifying e-commerce in China. Again, English and Chinese speakers, you may stay here in the Zoom meeting room, and to access to the vast Vietnamese and Thai subtitles, please click on the link in the chat box or access Ling Hui's presentation from our website, ipenc.asia. So you could open videos and choose your preferred subtitles.
Hi everyone, my name is Ling Hui. I come from Shenzhen Zero Waste, also known as Toxic-Free Corps. First, I'd like to thank IPEN for inviting us to give a presentation about our work in detoxifying e-commerce. I'm honored to be here and present to you some of the work we have been doing. Before moving forward directly into the topic of today, I'd like to give a brief introduction to our organization. We are focused on two issues. One is the topic today, detoxifying e-commerce. The other is mainstreaming chemical management through building a chemical safety network and promoting priority control chemicals reduction by taking waste incineration industry as an example. As urbanization is developing fast in China, more and more people move to live in the city. While as an approach to stimulate economy, consumerism has been promoted largely among the society. Thus, more and more products have been made to fulfill people's needs, whether necessary or not. However, during the life cycle process of producing, the use of toxic chemicals haven't been well regulated. The solid waste, wastewater, and gas have not been well treated, ended up in the environment and polluted the soil, water, air, and the food. You might have heard or read that many cities in China have been suffering from haze, which is a result of the mixture of many kinds of air pollutants from all kinds of emission resources. With the fresh air becoming more and more precious, it has been harder for us to find a clean river running through the cities as well. The river is either gray, green, or yellow, within some smells unpleasant or disgusting. Sadly, but in a good way, this pollution is visible. People can feel it and react to it. The days of haze each year have decreased after investing a huge bunch of money and implementation of related policies. Many cities have been putting a lot of effort trying to clean the rivers, and some have worked. Less known by people is that there is one type of pollution that is invisible. People do not know, not to mention react. Take the pictures on the slide as an example. The cadmium in the sea crab has been out of limit. The rubber duck contains excessive phthalates. The Rubik's Cube was found to contain brominated flame retardant, which it shouldn't have. The plate contains a high level of magnesium. The content of dioxin, mercury, and vinyl chloride is rather high in this bright river. The concentration of endocrine disrupting chemicals in the breast milk has reached a level which would bring harm to the baby in some cities. The dioxin and the polychlorinated bisphenol in some free-range chicken eggs is above the standard limit that EU sets. Unintentionally and intentionally, people are made to live in a dangerous environment, where they could be exposed to any kind of toxic chemicals through water, food, or consumer products. So in order to raise people's awareness and make some change, we decided to launch a campaign, Consumer Products, in 2017. We started to put e-commerce as a target in 2019, considering that more people accustomed to shop online. The amount will be still growing. It is more convenient than shopping in a physical store. There are many types of platforms, from full-line to vertical, which mainly sells food, cosmetics, clothes, or baby products, with live webcasts and short videos going viral all across China. Many influencers take the chance to sell products through their videos. It is a new type of e-commerce form, as you could see from the last logo, Douyin. The competition between all platforms is fierce because they all want to keep existing and attract more customers. They are desperate to build images, though the products sold online are not necessarily safer or better than offline. There is a set of regulations that guarantee our right to protect ourselves from toxic products. We should just act as an average person, buy products from those platforms, send them to a testing lab, and request the platforms to take actions if any is unqualified. By doing this, we could gain more public support because all people want to live in a healthy life. No one wants to be harmed by toxic chemicals. We hope that with our effort, each e-commerce platform will build up a chemical management system to block toxic products out, and a higher standard for supply chain management, make them do better than the national standard. So far, we have tested products sold on e-commerce platforms. We can see from the slide, from left to right and top to bottom, there are skin whitening cream, lipstick, complimentary food, sea crab, mooncake tree, rubber duck, eraser, Halloween teas, and plastic wrap. You could see that we are more focused on food packages, toys, stationery, and cosmetics. In the future, we will focus more on the baby and the maternal products, children products, and food. The targeted customers are kids and women because they are the most vulnerable yet always have been neglected in society when it comes to product safety issues and chemical management. Strategy differs among these products. The slide shows how we conduct the rubber duck campaign. Before ordering products online, firstly we would make a plan about quantities and sampling approaches. Then we would check the CCC information on the web page and order some of them. CCC is China compulsory certification. Toys need this certification to prove its quality, but it is not compulsory to put the CCC information on the web page. So after receiving the products, we would check the CCC on the package or label and send some of them to the lab. When we get the testing result, we would send the report and an advice email to the corresponding platform, report to 12315, i.e. the National Platform of Consumer Dispute Resolution, about unqualified products, and write a report summarizing the process and the result. Normally, the platform would force the very shops to stop selling the unqualified products, and that's all. Though we want them to do more and build up a system to block unqualified products out. Local market supervision and administration would go to the related manufacturer, take samples and send for testing, and then impose a fine or shut down the production line and ask the manufacturer to adjust itself so as to abide by the law. If local market supervision and administration didn't do anything, we would then apply for administrative review. If it still didn't work, we will think of filing a lawsuit. When the report is finished, we would hold a press conference and invite journalists to attend. Some of them would publish an article about the campaign. Besides, we would also write a policy proposal and find a deputy to the National People's Congress or a National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference to propose for us at the annual meeting of NPC and PPCC. This is only a general process. It differs based on the product type, testing result, and target of the campaign. Since the autumn of 2018, we have conducted 4 relatively big campaigns against e-commerce. We have faced many challenges. Among them, I think top 3 would be A. E-commerce platforms hold too much PR power. They could make some mainstream media not publish our action because they run ads on those medias. Also, they have tried to silence us by bribing us or threatening us. B. E-commerce platforms haven't been required to take more responsibility. According to the Chinese e-commerce law, the e-commerce platforms should share the legal responsibility with the e-shops if the product sold online could not guarantee the property and personal safety. But so far, no one platform has been fined or forced to make changes. One big reason is that those big platforms contribute largely to local tax income. C. Hard to raise special funds for this specific campaign. Compared to other environment campaigns, the Detoxifying E-Commerce campaign hasn't attracted enough attention. Foundations are not interested in this issue yet. For the first challenge, on one side, we keep sticking to our guns. On the other side, we just wait for opportunities. For example, in the first rubber duck campaign, basically no private-owned media could publish the story because one of the targeted platforms runs ads on them. Then all of a sudden, Guangzhou Daily reported our story because they are government-owned, and that platform had to respond to us and try to talk with us face-to-face. For the second, we apply for administrative reconsideration, which would force local market supervision and administration to take actions on the platforms. Also, we would take the opportunity of the annual meeting of NPC and CPPCC to hand in a proposal, suggest the related ministry or department to fully implement the e-commerce law. As for the third, we try to make use of the general funds and choose those cheap products as targets. And we will keep influence foundations and raising money from the public. So far, we have made all platforms withdraw all unqualified products. Besides, one platform conducted a defect investigation of the sea crab in their cold storage in 2018, claiming 60% of the sea crab was out of limit. Pinduoduo withdrew 18,000 links of rubber toys in 2019 and required rubber toy shops to provide the CCC information on the page. One platform punished 47,000 products of rubber toys from May to September 2020. One local market supervision and administration launched a special action to check all the rubber toy manufacturers and require these problematic ones to make improvements so as to abide by the legal requirements. So one Japanese stationery brand, Mitsubishi Pencil, stopped selling 2 cans of erasers in China from April 2020. In order to achieve the final goal, the strategies we have used are not enough. So we are planning to introduce the retailer report card and adjust it to suit the condition in China. Try to build up an alert system like REPEX, Rapid Alert System for non-food consumer products. Influence chemical management policies, especially related to priority control chemicals. Also, we will promote gender mainstreaming along the way. Hopefully, we could create a toxic-free e-commerce and contribute to a toxic-free future. Thank you for your attention. Here you could find my email address and the address of our website. Please do not hesitate to email me if you have further questions or suggestions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 非常感谢你. I hope I pronounced that correct. Thank you, Ling Hui, for your informative presentation. Your hard work is fascinating to help in increasing toxic pollutants that are invisible from online shopping, especially chemical in food, cosmetics, and products. For mother and child, it is a remarkably interesting approach to protect consumers from chemical harms by gaining public interest and call for producers' responsibility. We as the whole region should look up to your success. Thank you so much to our 4 generous presenters. Everyone, can you choose one of the reaction button below and give your speakers a sign of appreciation? You can type, click more than one time if you like. Thank you. I cannot find that emotion. You have my heart. Okay. And now, photos opportunity. Everyone, please, before we proceed to the question and answer, please an open forum. May I request everyone to turn on their videos so we could take a group photograph. Wow, so many friends here.
Nice to see everyone. Woo!
Hello,
Okay,
hello.
one moment.
Wow.
Smile, everybody. Smile. And there you go. Thank you.
And then one more for the other page because we can't all fit in.
Yeah,
Andrea,
we can't all fit.
who's not yet? Ted. Anger.
Everyone, turn on your cameras.
Oh, Fadri is there. Okay, 1, 2. Smile.
1, 2, 3. Smile, everyone. Okay, got that. Yay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We are now opening the floor for questions from everyone. I would like to invite our wonderful speakers to turn on their videos and our participants friend to raise your hand when you have questions so we could recognize you. Kindly say your name and organization for documentation purpose, and if it is a question intended for a particular speaker, kindly mention the name of the speaker. Anyway, the question from our participant that already typed in the chat box, we have here already three questions. I'm not sure if, so I will read the question again, and I'm not sure if I should read the answer that our presenter already answered in the chat box, or should we let our presenter emphasize by themselves? Any suggestion? Well,
Let the presenter answer, so even those on FB can hear them.
Sure. Thank you, Leah. Let me go to Manny's question first. Question from Manny to Pam. Can you tell us how you were able to integrate a gender lens in your efforts systematically? Yeah.
Yes, thank you for the question, Manny. I did type an answer into the chat, but I'll try to answer a bit more fully, just to say that we do involve women through our talking circles, through leadership development trainings and discussion with elders, elder talking circles to help us design our research, to help us carry out the research. We always train local community health researchers, community health workers, mostly women, to actually conduct the research. So really at all levels of the community-based research, women are involved from the design to the implementation, and then to bring those results back to the community to interpret them correctly and to bring them back. So we have, I mentioned, a community-based participatory research institute, and that's where we have both field and classroom training for both women and men, but by and large, the women have the greatest numbers of participants in these community-based research institutes. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you, Manny.
Thank you, Pam. Next, our question from Nina. Nina has two questions. I will read both questions. This is also a question for Pam, right? Okay. How do you convey the message that the mother's breast milk is so toxic, yet also important culturally and nutritionally? It's a very difficult contradiction and must be very difficult for the mother to handle. Secondly, has the citizen science conducted with ACAT led to specific health interventions and policies to address the exposure?
Yes, thank you. Good questions, Nina. And I'll do my best to answer and explain a little further than what I did in the chat. You're absolutely right. It is incredibly difficult to present these results back to women about their breast milk being contaminated. However, what we have found is that it empowers women to get involved at the local level to international levels in trying to reduce and eliminate their exposures to toxic chemicals, recognizing that the results really inspire them to get involved at a much more deep level in policy engagement. We do believe that women have a right to know about the levels of chemicals in their breast milk, in their bodies, the chemicals that they're conveying to their children. And while it is very difficult, we always organize talking circles to really discuss this information very fully with the women, to discuss what it means to them, not just from a scientific perspective, but what it means to them personally, so that they can tell their own stories about how this affects them, and then what we do, what we can do together, what actions we can take together to address the situation and to really change the world so that women's breast milk is not contaminated, because that is one of the most ultimate injustices in the world, that this beautiful, rich, nutritional breast milk that should sustain the bodies of growing children is contaminated. And so we have to work to change that. And I think that's the work that all of us are about. We see the injustice in that. The mothers see the injustice in that. And we really have to work together to change that. And then I think your second question has to do with whether the citizen science or community-based research has led to policy changes. And yes, we use our results on St. Lawrence Island to hold the military accountable for the pollution, because by and large, their monitoring efforts have been so inadequate to properly characterize the nature and extent of the contamination. So we have used local and traditional knowledge to determine where sampling should occur, what types of sampling should occur. And we use that information to bring to the military, again, to hold them accountable for proper cleanup and restoration. It's a long road, and it's taken, really, we've been involved in this community-based research now for over 2 decades now. So it takes a long presence and a long commitment to make the kinds of changes that need to be made. Also at the local level, our work in looking at flame retardants, for instance, in people and in household dust and in traditional foods such as fish, have led to local policy changes. Here in Anchorage, we were able to get an ordinance to ban 4 classes of flame retardant chemicals in children's products, mattresses, and furniture. We hope to achieve this at the state level in Alaska. And then we also take these results to national hearings, where change is much slower, especially under our current administration, which is now changing, we're happy to say. And then at the international level, we bring these results and the people who participated in these studies to forums like the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Pollutants, in the Minamata Convention. And I think it's fair to say that having representation, for instance, of people who've participated in studies like the Arctic Indigenous women that I referred to in my presentation, has an influence on delegates, and then has led, I think, to bans on some of the world's most dangerous chemicals. So I'll stop there, and hopefully that answered your question, Nina. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. We have several more questions. Question from Nina for Andreas. Andrea, thank you for your excellent example for participatory research. Nina's question is, which factors do you think help the women to participate, and which factors prevent women from participating?
Yes, thank you, Pam. The question is from the experience from the ecothon. The first we do it with the women and the children is make them build their self-confidence. The self-confidence is easy when they can get the real data, and they can get experience from the collecting the data. This make me in Ecotone is always how to take a data is always to collect make participant, especially women and the children is more like I say like uh, collecting the data is more build their self-confidence is the key, I think. There is, I think.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. And more question from many. For Ling Hui, excellent presentation to Ling Hui. Since online shopping has become so popular in all our countries, do you think it's possible to regionalize your project to detoxify e-commerce? Do you see any possibility of IPEN member groups in several countries in the region conducting a coordinated citizen science project targeting a particular set of products being sold online?
Oh, thank you, Bob. This is Mao from Toxic Free Corp.
Okay.
I'm taking the question from Manny for Ling Hui. Ling Hui is attending the conference, but actually she is on leave today for personal affairs. So I'm helping to answer the question. And Manny's question. Oh, yeah, I'm the executive director of Toxic Free Corp, Mao, and for Manny's question, yes, I do think that e-commerce is a very important target or stakeholder for detoxifying products. If we think products is a very important field for us to fight for environmental health and Ling Hui has done a great presentation explaining some of the reasons these companies, particularly e-commerce platforms. E-commerce platforms are very large companies. They have, everybody knows them now, and they normally have a very high commitment, literally, for social responsibility, sustainability, and also they have the capacity to change the rules of the market that many small dealers doing business. So and also
automatically
so based on
copy
these
any email
reasons, I think they are a good target for push the change of the supply chain. And currently, I think there is some. So I do think e-commerce is also, as Manny said, getting more popular in other countries, particularly in South Asian countries. And I think it's very natural for us to target them or try to change their behavior. I think, for example, for the Mercury in cosmetics, there is some similar works among countries in Southeast Asia already. I remember last year some groups in Philippines and South Asia tested skin lightening products from e-commerce in India, in the Philippines, and some of them are owned by Chinese big e-commerce companies. But the difference is we found the problem, the mercury problem there is very serious. But at the same time, we also sampled and tested the products in China, and we found the result negative. So these work shows that the markets are developing differently in different countries. So a coordinated work may show these phenomena. But several years ago, we found mercury-containing cosmetics is quite serious in Chinese market too. But also, at the same time, we also found that the rubber duck or plastic toy, PVC toy, a very old problem for decades, are still serious in Chinese e-commerce platforms. I do believe that if our Asia colleagues do the testing in their own countries, we'll also find the same problem. So I think this might be a suitable product to work together. And another interesting product, I think, is eraser. And because erasers are produced by some big multinational brands. It could be Japanese, could be Chinese or European. So for a common product to target, I would propose products more related to multinational brands. So these may have stronger effects. I think it's better than rubber ducks because these are produced by many small manufacturers. So we can push the e-commerce platform to do something, but later it's still up to the different countries' government how they implement the law, how they enforce the regulation. But for eraser with big international brands, I think that's a better product target for us to do together. Thank you.
Thank you, Melda. And I have more question. And again, question for Pam. Question from Ted. To Pam, you mentioned about women's talking circles and leadership trainings. Is the agenda available?
Yes, I'd be happy to share the agenda. In fact, we had a women's Indigenous leadership training and workshop today. And it goes on tomorrow, much like your conference, over several days by Zoom. And I'd be happy to share it. It's really focused on ways to address environmental racism and violence. We're having a session on decolonizing healthcare, on food sovereignty, on gender justice, and on generational historical trauma. So I'd be glad to share the agenda. The talking circles are more open-ended, designed just to be discussion and conversation with women. So we generally don't have an agenda for those, but I'd be happy to share with all of you our our agenda for the training.
Next, I would like to go to Tony. Tony, I have a question for Tony. Tony, what do you think were the main factors for FDA and even companies to act on the data you generated? Tony is okay.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. One, of course, is the importance of efforts we do as civil society. It is really very important for us to, create changes, pushing for more scientific based approach in pushing for regulatory action. As I mentioned during my presentation, the data we collected is we submitted to government regulators, and it helps them to come up with advisories, for example, from the Food and Drug Administration. The XRF is just a tool. Our effort is really very important in pushing them to take action. The good story behind this effort is even the Food and Drug Administration bought 2 machines for them to, rapidly test this cosmetic skin whitening creams. So it really helps a lot. It boosts our campaign. So I think we can utilize this tool, especially the citizen science approach, to help our advocacy. Thank you.
And another question from Manny for Tony. What was the consumer reaction to the toxic skin whitening products campaign, and how did you leverage the gains?
Thank you for that question. Well, there are some initial results from consumers, especially when they sent us reactions, compliments to our work, especially when we go to media with our expose, with our campaign, even when we participate in public hearings, legislations for ordinances. Although we really cannot gauge to quantify the impact, but for many years that we do this, we gain results by one, of course, the FDA has been very consistent in coming up with advisories. Second, we found some stores that no longer selling this product, although there are some in other areas, but not in most of the stores that we monitor. And it really helps a lot, especially now that we are focusing in coming up with legislations, ordinances. That is really very important now to ensure that our work has a protection towards the public, especially in those areas that we frequently monitor. Thank you.
Thank you again, Tony. Now it's we have Joe who raises his hand. I'd like to welcome Joe.
Hi, everyone. And let me first say thank you very much to all the presenters for really very interesting presentations, really great. I do not have a question as much as a little story. This is about the e-commerce topic that Ling Hui presented about. And Mao Da also kind of mentioned it in his answer. I was involved in the skin lightening cream sampling in China that he mentioned. And so skin lightening creams from many cities were purchased. But in addition, we thought it would be interesting to buy 10 products from Taobao, which is the giant e-commerce retailer. And 7 of them actually violated Chinese law. It just so happened that China had a good standard for mercury of 1 part per million. And so in the press release, later in the press release, we put this information in there. And then later we did press conferences. His colleague, Wang Chusha, and I ran around China doing these press conferences to show the results. And very quickly, the company found her mobile phone number. I think it was on the press release. And they called her up and they said, please stop mentioning us. We do not have control over all these companies that sell products on our platform. You just have to understand. And Chusha was a fairly blunt person. And she said, oh, does that mean you will stop selling them? And they said, well, no, we really cannot promise that because we do not have control over them. So she said, okay, we're going to keep mentioning it. And then she would hang up and then we would do the press conference and mention it. And then, the next press conference, they called her up again, please, finally they were saying things like, my boss is going to be mad and all these things. And, she said, well, does that mean you will stop selling them? And they said, well, no, we just can't promise that. Said, okay, we will keep mentioning it. And after the 3rd press conference, Xinhua published an article about it. So this is the giant in China. And after that article came out, they pulled the products. But one thing I forgot to mention is that NGOs in 10 provinces wrote a joint letter to Taobao explaining how their products were violating Chinese law. And so this was really a very good victory, particularly since they are so gigantic. But it was really a combination of violating a specific law and then having the sort of endorsement of a major media outlet that really pushed that thing over the edge. It was maybe small compared to the huge number of products they sell, but it still makes an important point about NGOs as participants in enforcement of laws. And I think Eco Waste has also done really excellent work in that regard. By presenting data, we can actually trigger enforcement. Okay, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe, for adding that. One last question, I think. For Tony, question from Eileen. Tony, since most of the skin whitening products came from other countries in Southeast Asia and East Asia, do you plan to regionalize the campaign?
Yes, we can do that. Of course, with the help of IPEN and all its participating member POs, especially in Southeast and East Asia. I think we have a lot of data that we can share, even our efforts. So it's a good opportunity for us, and we will participate as Eco Waste in this planned campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting future campaign, since Thailand is one of the country that produce many mercury contaminated whitening cream. So, well, thank you so much for that interesting and informative open forum. Dear speakers, dear friends, and participants, we have more points and insights to ponder on during our next two sessions in the next 2 weeks. Finally, we should come to the very last part of our today conference to wrap up our meeting. We had a rich discussion for the day 2 of our conference series. We are at halfway of our journey on citizen science virtual conference. We have learned citizen science and related SDG from day 1, and when connected to today's meeting content, it emphasized the importance of gender, especially women who are susceptible to chemicals exposure. It is the answer to why we need to empower women and strengthen gender equality, according to SDG 5, the goal of which can be achieved by protecting women from exposure to toxic chemicals. We have learned that hazardous chemicals have severe impact on women, children, and other marginalized communities. At the same time, citizen science has become a vital tool in empowering women and marginalized communities to carry out our local and global activities to protect us from harmful chemicals. Next week will also be informative and inspiring as we focus on collaboration and participation. So make sure you can join us next week, November 18th, for the third day of our regional conference. Meantime, do take care, everyone. Keep safe and strong.